How's everyone? Let's see. Okay. Sorry. A little behind, like usual. Like usual. Alrighty. How's everyone doing today? How's everyone doing? It's good to see you all. It's good to see you all. All right. All right. We've got some stuff to go over. I have a very limited amount of time. So, let's jump into it. Hope you're all doing well. Let's get into the tech news that you didn't know you needed to know this week. Okay, so the first thing was something that caught my eye, and I wanted to... I'm going to go into it a little bit more. I'm going to take a half hour, make a little section tomorrow on this topic. But the very first thing was I saw this article that caught my eye, and I wanted to just very quickly, if you're a new manager or learning to be a manager or a person that leads people, this is absolutely wrong. Okay? Bosses are done caring how... Oh no, did it not work? Wait. Does this work? Okay, that works. One second. We can fix this. So I have a new device. Give me one. There we go. I actually got another Elgato, what I had. And funny thing is, that Elgato was dead on arrival. It was broken when it got here. So I got another, not Elgato, device for screen capture. Anyways, sorry, I just hadn't set the one up on there. Okay, so I saw this, and it's dead wrong. Bosses are done caring how you feel. And there's a lot of reasons that this is dead wrong that I'm going to dive into tomorrow, including like research that's done by different companies and different organizations that says that if this is you, it's not good. And one of those reasons is that how you perform as a team depends on how you feel. If you feel really good about a product, if you feel really good about your team's work, you'll do better work. If you feel really bad about it, you'll do worse work. That's just... So if you want to be a good manager, you want to care. You want to care. Forget everything else. There's even more. I mean, let's say I want to get the best talent that I can get that's going to be loyal to me. Then I also want to care. Because sure, you can get the cheapest that's out there, but there's so many things that are wrong with this. We're going to dive into it tomorrow because I feel so passionately that these people are very, very wrong. Is it because bosses are being replaced by ChatGPT Slack integration? Maybe. And a statistical analysis has no way to care. So possibly. Ultra AI will replace the head of product? Absolutely. Where are the cheapest viewer bots? All right. So let's move on. Let's jump into security. This is a little sneak peek. Tomorrow we're going to finish our Kubernetes stuff since we can share screens and have internet. So those two things are fantastic. Okay. There's actively exploited 40net 0-day. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, look at this. Super admin privileges. Palo Alto finds vulnerability to secure boot and PyBash firmware exploits. All of this. And then you see this public service announcement by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. And basically, it says people in your company shouldn't have admin. This is actually really important. I think people should read this. And this is the basis for least privilege, or one of the basis for it. And you should have the privileges that you need to operate and no more. So what's happening is these hackers from North Korea are getting hired. Some are using AI generated fake profiles. Some aren't. And they're getting admin in their first week on systems and basically stealing all of the stuff that they can. So one of these that could protect you is the principle of least privilege, which I know can be a pain and can be difficult, but it's actually a really good practice to have. Do hackers' bosses care about them? If they're a good boss, they do. If they're a good boss, they do. Absolutely. That was it for security. Did you guys see anything else in security? Now, I saw a very interesting happening going on in the Ubuntu world, which is a big open source community. And I wanted to know your guys' thoughts. Should Null Labs follow in their footsteps with this? I don't know. Maybe. I've heard some people in my chat talk about it. And so when I saw this, I was like, maybe we give it a shot. I don't know, because there's also a certain amount of too many things. Discord is pretty nice. Maybe I just let the cat out of the bag. Let's do it. Confirmed Ubuntu dev discussions moving to Matrix. So Ubuntu's developers are switching to Matrix as the primary platform for real-time development communications involving the distro. So if you want to talk with them, you're going to have to do it on the Matrix. Now, should Null Labs join the Matrix and create our own server? Because we could host our own server and do our own things with that. Would that be something that you guys would find fun? I can do it over the next week. We can stream it, of course. Or are people plenty happy with the number of things that they have a login and user with? Because maybe that's also the case. Anyways, I find it interesting. I will be watching this to see if more open source communities go to something like Matrix, or if they're happy with Slack and Discord. Personally, honestly, I've been super happy with the stuff Discord has provided. So yeah. Right. I have mixed feelings on it, Russell, because it's like, oh yeah, another chat app. Wow. But I've never been on it, so maybe it's amazing. Like I said, I've never really had problems with the Discord. Absolutely. Okay. Now, there was some commotion about DeepSeek. DeepSeek, for one, isn't the best. It's pretty good. But what the big claim to fame was how cheaply it was made. And there's been some controversy over this, because there's been stuff that's coming out of it with a little bit more scrutiny as people have been reviewing it. And we see that the exposed DeepSeek database revealed chat prompts and internal data, which actually led to OpenAI saying it has proof DeepSeek used its technology to develop its AI models. And this guy right here, David Sachs, that said that it used OpenAI's model to train its competitor using distillation, which is not what they previously claimed. They also claim to only have 10,000 NVIDIA GPUs, but that's an oddly specific number, which is due to tariffs. It's estimated that they have quite a few more GPUs, which would actually bump that number up much higher than what they're publicly claiming. And they literally couldn't claim to have more GPUs because of these tariffs. So it's interesting. A lot of things are very much in flux. Now, their research articles and stuff I have very much liked. And one of the cool things that came out of this, through all of this, is it wasn't fully open source. So the model was open. You could run the model, and we're probably going to run the model. Maybe not tomorrow, but we will probably run the model ourselves. One of the cool things is that Hugging Face actually did an open R1, a fully open, reproducible production of DeepSeek's R1. So I'm going to give you guys this. This is actually a really cool deep dive. You're on a Zulp due to raw code. Yeah, this is where I'm probably not going to, unless if there's like a good reason. That settles my mind. Like if there's a good reason not to be on Discord, I might do it then. But until then, Discord it is. Discord also has all the libraries and stuff for integrations for like playing around with bots and AI chat agents. So yeah. So anyways, they actually went into like how they did it, which I think I think we're going to do it as soon as we get that NVIDIA machine that's supposedly good enough to do some of this stuff. We're going to try to follow along these things and actually reproduce them ourselves if we can. We're going to try at least. We're going to try, which would be pretty cool. So go check it out. What do you guys think? Do you think DeepSeek actually did it with exactly what they said, or do you think they're fudging it a little bit? Do you think they're fudging it? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, there are some suspicious things. Their number of GPUs is exactly what they could legally have. It's a little suspicious. It's a little bit. But who knows? Who knows? And we'll try it with our AI supercomputer as soon as we get it. We don't have it yet, but as soon as we do, we will try it. All right, continuing on with AI stuff. There's a couple interesting things here. Microsoft AI introduced CoRAG, chain of retrieval augmented generation. An AI framework for iterative reveal and reasoning in knowledge-intensive tasks. So I don't quite understand yet what this is. I understand what ragging an application is. The retrieval augmented generation. Basically, you're retrieving or fetching some information to try to keep your AI from hallucinating, saying, here's a database with information. If it's not in this database, it's probably wrong. And so, if you're coming off the rails, you can hold this information to it. So chain of retrieval is where I'm starting to not understand quite as much. I wanted to point it out to you guys that it exists as far as what Microsoft is doing. I am digging into it, but the CoRAG enhances RAG models through three key components: retrieval chain generation, model training, and test time scaling. I don't know what these words mean in real English. Like this is like a sales pitch, and so I myself have not found a better example of it. But I'm interested in better ways of ragging AI, because I actually think that better ways of ragging or co-ragging or whatever it is, or whatever the new iteration, it might not even be RAG in the future. I think those are going to be really important. And maybe what makes one AI better than another AI is that ability to hold it to real things. Has AI created more acronyms per month than any other tech? It feels like every single tech ups the number of acronyms that they create. Absolutely. 93% of IT leaders see value in AI agents, but struggle to deliver, Salesforce finds. I 100% feel this. I have so many times seen value, but have struggled to actually show and prove the value. Now, I have finally found some values in some things, which my AI video, which is late, but I have worked on, and I got my recordings is set up. So we'll be recording the video on the next database video, then the AI video, then a fun video. Anyways, I have found some where I actually see the value, but I have struggled to places where I thought AI agents would really, really do really well. And so far they haven't. So I feel this. I feel this. This is me. This is me. All right, moving on. A science experiment with subjecting AI to pain. These scientists needed somebody to pay them, and so they made up something. This is the dumbest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. This is the dumbest thing. You guys should read the thing. This is the dumbest thing. It's a statistical analysis machine. One, anything that you prompt it with will be the statistical analysis of what a human would respond with the given data that it was given. Dumbest thing I have ever seen. Please put your smart brains to better use. Let's move on. All right. I have not seen O3 Mini, but supposedly it's getting released. Hopefully DeepSeek puts up the competition on Anthropic and closed AI. Because Anthropic and closed AI have been slow. They've been whatnot, just not great. So hopefully we get a little bit of a speed boost on iteration. Come on, CI/CD. That's all I'm asking. All I'm asking. From rags to riches. Oh my gosh. That's fantastic. From rags to riches. I want to make a series like that now. All right. Have you ever been in the situation where you're handling over 700 million events a second? Can you make sense of all of the data that you're getting from those 700 million events? Have you had this problem? Well, if you have, and that's you, and you're struggling, you've either wrote this blog article that I'm giving you now, or you haven't, and you haven't needed it. Now, I wanted to show this to you for a couple of reasons. One, it's a really fantastic blog article from Cloudflare. They have done a couple of these, and this gets into a little bit of math, which is actually pretty interesting. It's not too hard to actually understand the math that they're doing here. It's not super difficult. It's like maybe if you did college calculus. You might be able to understand it without that even. Anyways, not too bad. But it does get into a little bit of math. But it's an excellent one on trying to basically give a high resolution view without all of the data of what you want. So this is actually really cool. But the reason I brought this up today, one, because this blog article was released very recently, but two, because there's two projects that are near and dear to my heart that also will help you with this problem specifically. Now, this is specifically events per second, but if you've ever been trying to monitor your entire stack's performance, that can also be a challenge. There's two open source projects that I really like. This is one that's new that I haven't used before, but it is a cluster-wide continuously profiling tool that is built on top of Google's wide profiling paper, which is a pretty well accepted paper by Google and is how they do their Google wide profiling. It's pretty interesting. Something that we might use on my internal cluster here. Not that we need it because, let's be real, I have 3 machines, so there you go. But if you have a large cluster and want a cluster-wide, company-wide performance, there's Performator. Should be like, I feel like there should be horns on this. I feel like this is a mythical creature, but they missed it. There's a little fire. This should have horns and be like a centaur, but a Performator. Like a really fast centaur. I don't know why I did like beefy arms, but fast centaur. That's what they need here. Like with the horns and like running. That's what anyways, moving on. It looks really, really cool. It uses very little resources. So 512 megabytes of RAM and less than 1% of a CPU host. And this is per CPU. So just keep that in mind. I believe that this scales with the number of CPUs. I could be wrong. Now, this isn't your only option out there in the open source world. It is the new one out there, but I want to go back and give a shout out because these people have done great work to NetData. I actually really like NetData, and I actually use NetData. NetData is free and open source to run under the GPL v3 on your local machines. If you want a cloud, they have a cloud solution for you, and it's pretty awesome. And I like it a lot. So if you're dealing with this, first, read this paper. Second, check out some cool profiling things so that you can better understand your infrastructure. All right, now that we're talking about open source, let's talk about some more open source stuff. Yeah, we got some cool open source stuff to talk about. Ugh. I've been dealing with some congestion. Sucks. All right. Now, you all know that Broadcom bought VMware, and Broadcom decided that they wanted to milk the cow. That's not the saying. There is a saying. They wanted to get every last drop of money. That's also not the real saying. They wanted to get every last drop of milk out of the cow. I don't know what the saying is, but they wanted to milk VMware for everything that it was worth. And so they canceled all of the perpetual subscription licenses and upped the price dramatically. So there's been a lot of interest in running your own private cloud. Now, since the Null cloud is notoriously behind schedule, that's not an option just yet. But there is a cost-effective solution, OpenStack. But OpenStack is notoriously difficult to manage and maintain. So what is the solution? Well, if you're Mirantis, you launch an open source software that streamlines OpenStack management on Kubernetes. Now, personally, this sounds horrifying to me. You're going to manage OpenStack leveraging Kubernetes? Holy crap. Does that sound like more complexity to solve complexity? Which, in general, I'm against complexity to solve complexity. I don't think that actually works. But that's what has happened. Now, I don't know. Maybe this project does it amazingly and perfectly. I'm not sure. I haven't gotten a chance to use it, but that is what they're doing with this new Apache 2 open source project is doing. Is a Kubernetes controller that provides a lifecycle management for OpenStack services, basically giving you the ability to manage OpenStack with Kubernetes. I don't know. Maybe it's amazing. Again, it sounds like complexity for complexity, but it's there. If you're looking at OpenStack and you're concerned about the complexity or managing it, maybe check that out and see if that will help you. I don't know that much about OpenStack, honestly. I've never actually run it. Maybe I should try running it just to give it a shot, just to understand it a little bit. It's mostly Python, and that hurts my heart so much. Like, so much. I got to get over it, though. Did VMware ever have cows? Okay. On the bright side of open source here, there is a new open source machine looking to knock down your home lab doors. Now, if you're like me, I like little machines for my home lab. They're cheap, they're inexpensive, they're low noise, low power consumption, and do pretty much more than what I ever could need. That being said, I keep my eyes open for a good Linux home lab machine. And finally, System 76 has had, for a long time, a little mini PC, but it's been outdated for a very long time, something I have called out in a couple of my streams. And it's finally getting a refresh. Now, It's getting, unfortunately, it's not getting updated to an AMD processor. I would have loved to see that. It is still getting to a Intel Core Ultra 7 processor. So this is probably one downside to it. But it gives you a 16 total cores. It's as far as Intel processors go, it's a pretty decent processor. And it gives you the integrated art graphics, which I think actually means that this would give you encoding of AV1 hardware encoding of AV1, which is pretty fantastic. With a 2.5 gigahertz Ethernet, makes it a fantastic little mini server, because you're getting really fast Ethernet to handle a lot of connections and requests. So I think this sounds like a really good either home server or maybe a streaming PC. Maybe. Now, that being said, I was a little disappointed in one thing. If you're looking to actually buy this, if you go mini, it's $800. It is $800. For its base. That doesn't even give you the 16 cores. This feels too expensive. I don't know. I need to talk to System 76. They make really great products for Linux. If I was going to get a Linux laptop, I'd probably get a System 76 laptop. I don't actually have a personal laptop at this point. I don't go enough places. Is that I don't think it's one of the Intel CPUs that eats itself. I think this one's at least safe. But don't take my word on that. I don't know all the SKUs of the Intel CPUs. But I thought it was the ones that ate themselves. One, they do have a patch now that keeps them from eating themselves, unless if they've already cooked. You know, like if they've been cooking, if that CPU's been cooking a little bit, it's done. But they did patch it, so I don't think that you have to worry about that. But don't take my word for it. Like I said, I wish that they had gone with AMD. Yeah. Right, Russell. I agree. The $800 is the thing that kind of hits me. It feels a little pricey, especially when we're talking a framework, and you can go here and you can go main boards and you can go here, and for $500 you can get effectively the same thing. For $450 and 3D print a case. Now, obviously, this doesn't have the hard drives, but the hard drives are pretty cheap. So this is why when I pointed it out, because I am watching for it, I said that this was pricey. To me, this isn't worth it for that price. Which is sad, because if it was like $600, great. It comes with a case. It comes all packaged. You know, the other one's $450, but you got to buy the hardware. You got to buy the memory. That's fine. Like, there's work that you have to do for being cheaper. So 600 would have been a good. 800 is just too much. It's just too much. All right, moving on. Intel debuts. I hate this word. It's debuts. Intel debuts. Bold modular laptop design focused on the right to repair. Now, I have called this out because everybody's like, AMD is such the good boy, Intel's such the bad boy, whatever. And the fact of the matter is, it's competitive advantage. If you're in the lead, you don't have to do things that people like or want or need. If you're not in the lead, then you need public opinion to be on your side. This was what held AMD for the longest time, is because people like them because they played well with the open source community and things like that. Now, you'll see a change and shift, and this is something I have said for a long time. If AMD ever was to become the dominant player, you would see a fast shift in Intel starting to do things that people want and like. Now, I think it would have been fortuitous and forward thinking of them to do this in the first place, so they don't have to gain people's trust now, because, yeah, but it is happening. I mean, whether they do this or not, I don't know, but they have, it's very similar if you read through it to Frameworks, a laptop. So very interesting. Spin and SpinCube is now a CNCF sandbox. I could have taken you to that article, but I brought you to this one because it's an interesting road that they took to sandbox status. Now, I will say Spin and SpinCube, we've actually tried them on stream not that many months ago, but it was a very rough path. We used it, it didn't work well at all, and it's been very, very rough. Now that they're accepted and in the CNCF, I think we're going to give them another try to run Wasm. The Null Labs is going to need a new Kubernetes cluster anyhow. So we're probably going to just start from the ground up. And we're going to probably just try Spin and SpinCube again and see if we can bring Wasm to our cluster a little bit easier and a little bit better. That was it for the open source-ish section. This next one is kind of a crossover, and we'll go right into the cloud news after this one. But Microsoft has really brought the heat to the open source community, powering the next iteration of document databases. DocumentDB, an open source announcement by Microsoft themselves. We are excited to announce the official release of DocumentDB, an open source document database platform and engine powering the vCore based, I don't know why they put vCore based, the dumbest, Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB built on Postgres. So basically, let me take that out of marketing speech for you and bring it to human. Azure built this thing that was Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB. It wasn't MongoDB because they built an API compatible layer with MongoDB, but it wasn't MongoDB in the backend because they use the SSPL, the server-side practitioner license. That's not what the P stands for. I apologize. I'm blanking on the P. Anyways, they use the SSPL, and so Azure doesn't want to pay for the licensing for it, and so they built this thing. And for the longest time, this thing was closed source. And now the thing that they use is open source. And it's pretty cool. It comes in a couple layers. So if you go down to what it is, there is the PG Document DB core and the PG Document DB API. So this is like the custom PostgreSQL extension optimizing for BSON. BSON is the binary JSON. Actually, if you watch my next video that's releasing on my YouTube channel, we're actually talking a little bit about BSON and why there's binary JSON. And then there's the API that gives you the CRUD operations, query fund, all of the things that you would expect from a document database, all of the ways that you would expect to interact with it through this thing. So these are the two layers and then obviously you have PostgreSQL underneath all of this, providing the data engine. This is actually really, really cool to me because it's expanding on quite possibly one of the de facto database engines and saying, look, we can take this database engine, and we can make a bunch of cool things on top. This isn't the only thing. This is just one in a long line, which has proven Postgres Squirrel's capability here. One is the PG vector, the Postgres vector, which provides a vector database on top of Postgres, which is pretty cool. So anyways, I was super excited to see this. I think it's a huge win for the open source community. You know, and credit to where credit's due. Thank you, Microsoft, for providing this. Yes, Russell. They did not open source their NoSQL document DB. Not to my understanding. They open source the one that is powering the MongoDB. Yeah. Slight competitive advantage, yeah. Or they'd rather people use that's an interesting take. So I don't use Azure, and you all know that. So you would say that people use the other one more than the MongoDB one? Like, you guys know that I'm pretty biased against MongoDB in just about every case. I try not to let that leak through too much. So I wouldn't really know this. Do you guys honestly not use the MongoDB one? People don't care about that one? Is that the facts? The NoSQL one is the one that you should choose. Well, the NoSQL one, like theirs, is like a little bit more powerful with like the automatic redundancy and backup and sharding across geolocations. I could see how Postgres could make those types of operations a little bit more difficult to do automatically. I don't know. Okay. Well, this is still pretty cool if like not many people in Azure might care about it, but if you're looking for a different offering for a document DB, honestly, MongoDB is the 7,000 pound gorilla in the in the document database world. To be honest, there's not many competitors that give like full document database support. So I'm happy to see it. The other cool thing is like these are just open source projects now. If you're wanting to know what a document DB API looks like and how they perform those things, this is like super, super cool. And actually, I have to update my video because I now have this to reference, because in my video, one of the things I'm doing with my database videos is actually bringing out things for people to actually go look in the real world. So I have a coded up example of the things, but it's not a real world example. And I want to actually give real world examples in it. So I have to update this now that I saw this. Okay, let's move on to the cloud. Let's move on to the cloud, and then we can talk about how our goose is cooked. I like that one. Block handed that one to me. They were just like, here, take it. Your goose is cooked. All right. Anyways, moving on. We're excited to announce the release of Amazon API Gateway integration for Azure API Center. So if you've been locked in to your Amazon API or Amazon because of your Amazon API Gateway, and it's just so complicated and so stuck there, but you would really love to move to Azure, you now can. Happy birthday. In Amazon, the Amazon S3 tables now support 10,000 tables per table bucket. This is a pretty big update because I believe the previous version was 1,000. So this is actually pretty huge, letting you get up to 100,000 tables across 10 buckets. So if you're leveraging Amazon S3 and its ability for Apache Iceberg capability, like this actually gives you a huge ability for things like Spark and Flink and those types of things to do data processing on S3. This is actually pretty cool. And it didn't even make their top announcements, so I was kind of upset. You can do some pretty large like data processing in this with this. Awesome. Amazon Elastic Beanstalk, the probably most forgotten about deployment tool, which honestly, I actually tell people, if you're small and you're thinking about Kubernetes, look at Elastic Beanstalk. And I'm not even joking. Elastic Beanstalk is so underrated for small teams. It's disgusting. People are like, I got to be on Kubernetes and I got to have Argo CD and Istio and I got to. You don't have to. You literally don't have to. You can do Elastic Beanstalk. And Amazon or Azure has some of the same things. So you can use that. Azure has Azure DevOps. I've heard really good things about it. Haven't used it myself. You can do something simple. Don't solve complexity with complexity. It never works. Moving on. The C4A. Not the most explosive release, but the titanium SSDs are now GA. So if you've been wanting to get your hands on the titanium SSDs because you want to do a large scale database deployment to power that new AI that you've got, the titanium SSDs, if anybody actually ran their workloads in GCP, this would be helpful to them. So for the 6 of you that are out there, your new workload is now up to par with what you can do on Azure or AWS. I think AWS still has the best. Their Nitro system is pretty dang good. Azure's in a funny place for me. They do have the direct connect SSDs. I haven't done as much testing really recently. I did some testing a while ago. What is the titanium SSDs? So the titanium SSDs are custom designed by Google for cloud workloads that require real-time data processing. So this is basically you know how AWS has the Nitro system, which includes the SSD hardware through the firmware, through the software that provides the SSD to you. The titanium SSDs is Google's take on that to provide 35% lower latencies compared to previous generations of SSDs. So yeah. Is it just PCI 5? They wouldn't tell you if that's all it was. I don't think so, but they wouldn't tell you. Blackwell is here. New A4 VMs powered by the NVIDIA B200 now in preview. If you guys don't know, the B200s is the new Blackwell chip that are just coming out from NVIDIA that's built on top of the ARM architecture, providing a really high that sentence doesn't even make sense in my head. Anyways, providing really good, AI training. Providing really high throughput for AI training. The new Blackwell chips look to be really good, as well as being slightly cheaper than their predecessor, although they still cost 3 kidneys. These are the ones that we don't need anymore because of DeepSeek. That's right. If the news, Sergeant Pepper, is to be believed, DeepSeek cheated, or possibly they didn't, but we don't know yet. This is one reason I would tell people to not be pessimistic and not be excited for things, but to understand that every company is going to try to make themselves look better than they are. That's kind of the purpose of sales. They need to stand out, and to stand out, sometimes that's sticking out colorful feathers that have no real reason to exist other than to say, look, I'm big and can do things better than other people. So take everything with a grain of salt. Take everything with a grain of salt. All right. Now, have you ever been somewhere and just need a cooked goose? Well, today we're going to let you cook your own goose. We're gonna try. You know how we were building an AI agent, and then that stream kind of took a bad turn because my internet took a bad turn, my capture card took a bad turn, my new capture card took a bad turn, and so I had to buy a third capture card because capture cards are fantastic. Well, everybody that's been trying to build an AI agent has had their goose cooked. Block released Goose, an open source framework for AI agents. Now, a Block engineer said that the new AI agent writes better code than him. I don't know what that says about them. I don't know. I'm not sure, but we're going to be testing this. It is open source. You can go find it at block/goose on GitHub to see a code named Goose. Look, it's named Goose now. That's just it. It's either Goose or codename Goose. Like, either way, your goose is cooked. This is its name. Stop trying to pretend like it's going to be called something else. It's now Goose. And if you change the name, I will fork it. I will. Yes. Anyways, there's ways to install Goose and run it locally. So maybe I already did this. Maybe. So maybe we'll have to play around with it, see how we can use and leverage it. And yeah. Now, it is an agent framework, which means you set it up with providers. They work very closely with Anthropic. It's very interesting that I find that these people use Anthropic over closed API. API. Why do I say API? AI, closed AI. I need a closed AI t-shirt. That's what I need to make next. I'm making a closed AI shirt. Like most things, it wouldn't make us less compute. It would just make us do more with it. Absolutely. Eagle 11. I struggle with this because the people that come out for years now that have said, I am like 100 times more productive developer. And we're talking about like a year ago when AI was a lot dumber than it is today. And the only thing I can say is either you were a terrible engineer or you were making this for clicks on YouTube. And you all know that I'm bad at clickbait. You all know that I'm bad at it. But it is what it is. Good to see you here, Eagle. Yeah. We've done a lot of AI testing. Okay. So I got to get going. Actually, I have a little bit of time, so we're going to raid somebody. I have the time to do it, and I've forgotten to do that recently. One thing to remember: tomorrow we're going to do a quick. Your bosses are done caring about how you feel. I have actual research prepared on how many levels that's wrong, and if you're aspiring to be a leader, why you need to care. So we'll be covering that tomorrow. The other thing that we'll be doing is we're going to pick up where we left off with the Kubernetes operator challenge. I know that last week we were supposed to finish that, and then our internet and capture device, and we had so many problems. Resubscribe. Thank you so much, Scott B. You are a legend. The news was brought to you today by Scott B, who is an absolute legend. Thank you so much. So tomorrow we're going to do the Kubernetes operator challenge. And then after that, we're going to get back onto the AI agents and figuring out some of those. Hopefully our internet holds out, as does our capture device. And thank you so much, Scott B, because I've just had to buy a bunch of capture devices. So that money will go, unfortunately, not to my Oxide rack because I need to buy capture devices. But as soon as I paid off those capture devices, Then it will go back to the oxide rack. Man, 5 months. 5 months. That's amazing. And I'm honored, Scott B, to... All right. Who should we, let's see. Who should we raid? Who should we raid? Mr. Epileptic is on. I believe he does, isn't he doing the Rust game? He might be doing the Rust game. Let's go raid him. Maybe he doesn't. Never mind. Never mind. Infrastructure for startups. Programmer network. You guys are going to have to check this out. Tell me how it is. We're going to raid this person. Mr. Epileptic does Godot, not Rust. Okay, that's fair. I mean, I sometimes do Python, and that's a rough stream for everybody. Me, you, whatnot. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Hope you enjoyed the news. I'll be back next week for the news. Tomorrow we have a bunch of stuff going on. You should join if you can. Thanks for everybody's support, especially you, Scott B. Thank you. Bye.